Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Padfoot Live Get Training, coming to you once again from our training grounds here at Buttering Mountain State School Oval. Look, firstly, before we get started on what we're going to be talking about today, I just really wanted to thank everybody. Padfoot Live last week, we had 5,000 people watch it, which means that Courtney and I this week are crapping ourselves. Basically, 5,000 people is well beyond what we're used to dealing with. But that's just amazing. You know, we're so happy that our messages and our philosophy around dog training and the tips and techniques we use are getting out to a wider community around the Sunshine Coast and beyond. So thank you, everybody, and please do, keep sharing this, with your friends and family. Keep refer back to it after we finish today. It's available as a recording on the Padfoot Facebook page. Just really, try and use the resource. We really appreciate you guys doing that. The other little bit of housekeeping I wanted to cover off before we get started as well was more around the recommencement of our group classes. Now, as you'll probably have heard, the federal government and the Queensland state government have announced a program for easing the restrictions. Now, in theory, that means that groups of 10 are able to recommence as of next weekend. However, our hire of the Oval, is dependent on the education department, so we have to wait until they give us the okay to recommence the use of the Oval. So, look, I'm hoping it might be next weekend. But if not, hopefully it's the weekend after. We'll keep everybody updated via the Padfoot Ed Zone. So if you are currently signed up for one of our courses that we had to pause due to restrictions, or if you have signed up already for the next round of courses, which you can do on the website currently, then please join the Ed Zone, and then you'll be updated on the start date. So I think that covers that, doesn't it? Yeah, great. Okay. Right, so a couple of things we're going to talk about today. Firstly, we're going to talk a bit about the basic equipment you need to train your dog. We're then going to answer a couple of questions that have been asked by our viewers, by yourselves. So,
and thank you very much to those viewers.
Yep, absolutely. So we're going to be talking about barking and long line handling and training using the long line. We're also then going to run another one of our masterclass series in markers and using the clicker as a marker. And then once again we're going to get Buddy's trick of the week, which this week is going to be the rollover. Okay. So firstly, in terms of training your dogs, there's some basic equipment you need. Now, a lot of people are very tempted to go out and buy all manner of bits and pieces, to help them. But really,
you can spend a fortune.
Yeah, really, absolutely. Really, all you need is two things. You need, two types of things. Once you've got those two types of things, there are another couple of things you can get which are helpful, and then beyond that, then you're really getting into quite complicated kind of training philosophies and so on and so forth. So the first thing you need is two leads. So I'm just going to duck down and grab them. So firstly, you just need a normal short walking lead. Now we recommend slip leads. Slip leads basically work as one piece of rope. They have a handle at one end, and at the other end there is just basically a loop that slips, tightens and untightens around the dog's neck depending on how they're going. Now the reason we recommend these types of leads are there's a few of them. Firstly, the act of the lead tightening slightly around the dog's neck is great for training. It gives them a very clear indication that you can teach them to avoid. So you can teach them not to pull on the lead by avoiding the sensation of this tightening around their neck.
Yeah, we use pressure as communication with it, essentially.
Absolutely. The second thing is I like these nice big fat soft round leads. That is going to hurt less on the neck than a flat sharp lead that if they run into the end of it on a clip with a normal collar, that can dig in, that can tighten in quite unpleasantly, can cut in on the flesh of their neck. I would have no qualms whatsoever putting the around my own neck and tightening up and giving myself a couple of jerks.
Can you hand that over to Melissa though?
Yes, Melissa loves doing that, but that's enough about our private life. Sorry honey. The other reason I like these, and the main reason I like these, is the fact there's nothing that can go wrong with them. When you live where we do here on the sunny coast, a normal clip lead, you can get sand in it, you can get saltwater corrosion. That will almost certainly fail on you at the point when you need it. This, things can't go wrong with it. You can just quickly drop it over your dog's head, and there are. Then they're on the rope. They're on the lead. There's no, the ones we make and sell are actually different to this one. I haven't got one with me today, but they don't even have this little metal bit here. We actually use a bunch of knots instead. So really all you're dealing with is one piece of rope. There's no points of failure. Okay? If you want to get one of those slip leads, you can get them from our website. Now, the second piece of kit we recommend in terms of leads is a long line. Now, a long line is what you use when your dog's recall is not 100% perfect. It basically means they can be free, they can meander around, they can go and sniff things, they can do things, but you've still got control over them. You can still reel them back in if you need to.
Because that follow through is so important, guys.
Exactly. There's lots of different types of long lines you can get. My recommendation is one, either like the ones we sell on the website, which are basically using flat equestrian rein ropes, which are nice and soft in the hand, nice and strong, or something like this, which has basically a little bit of rubber built into the line. It's flat.
And that specific one, I believe you can find at Pet Stock or Pet Barn.
Yeah.
It's an easy dog
It's
one.
an easy dog one. Nice and easy, grippy in your hand. This one, of course, does have a standard clip on the end of it. Okay. So in these cases, if you're going to use these, which typically you would do at the beach a lot, make sure you always clean that, rinse that out in fresh water
And check
thoroughly, oil it, check it, make sure it's all working. As soon as it stops working, replace. Because you do not want this failing on you. Okay.
I had a dog that I had to help get home the other day who was doing some off-lead training, and she saw a duck, and that was it. She was gone.
Yep.
So it took the owners like 4 hours to then get her back. She was with me for a lot of that, luckily, but that's perfect reason why we use them. If you can't trust them 100% yet, and you don't want to lose your dog, that's what you want.
This is the go. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll actually, in one of our later pieces this morning, we'll actually be talking you through the use of the long line and how to actually handle that and use that, particularly down in the beach environment. Okay, so that's the first piece of equipment you really need. The second piece is a treat pouch. You need somewhere to keep your rewards. Okay, so you can get some that are like a normal kind of cloth bum bag. If Courtney backs up a little here, she's going to raise it up. That's the one Courtney uses.
Yep,
so it's,
I'm getting one of those,
effectively a mini handbag. She can keep her keys in it, and her treats and so on. The ones I like to use, because I don't need a handbag, are basically these ones. These are medical grade, silicone treat pouches. They don't absorb odours. They can go in the top drawer of the dishwasher, so it makes them nice and easy to clean. You can either, they come with a belt, that kind of attaches to things at the back. I'm a bit too lazy for that as well, so I've just fastened a little clip onto mine, so I can just clip it to my belt loops on my pants. Nice and easy. You can also get these from the Padfoot website. They're called the trainer's pouch. They're very good. We like them a lot. You can just get your hand in there, get the treat out, nice and easy, bang.
And you can fit a tennis ball in those as well.
Yeah, there's a good bit of size. There's enough space for a tennis ball, so you can get a decent amount of treats in here, and it just makes rewarding your dog a lot easier if you can access your treats a lot quicker. We see a lot of people come to training class. They've got good high value training treats like chicken, sausage, lots of other stuff like that, but they're keeping it in a little Ziploc bag in their pocket. So it takes them 30 seconds to get a piece out.
Yeah, and it gets annoying after a while for you and your dog.
Yes. And when we talk about the masterclass section of here today, the markers, you'll understand there how important it is to actually reward and mark the good behaviour as part of the training. It's all about that communication with your dog. So having ready access to treats, having nice and easy, using one of these things is really, really invaluable. Okay, so those are the things you really, really need. What I also like to use, and this comes from my background in working dog and kind of particularly gun dog training, I like to use a whistle. Just a normal, basic Acme, they're called, dog whistle. It's audible to me, so I know it's worked.
Buddy heard it.
Buddy heard it. Buddy's looking at me going, ooh, interesting. You can just hang it on lanyard and around your neck. They cost very little, although they're a little bit hard to purchase over here. So you have to kind of get on eBay, Amazon, somewhere like that. Order them online. They're virtually indestructible. I've had big chewy dogs go to town on these things and they still work. You sometimes don't want to put them back in your mouth, but they do still work. The reason I like these is that it's the same as anything else. You can train them to whistle commands, a certain number of pips, certain tone of a pip, duration, style, for a different command. But frankly, if I'm at the beach and my dog is 500 yards that way, I like this more than yelling their name. It's just a lot simpler. A lot simpler, and it cuts through the static. They tend to hear these. When they're concentrating on something else, they actually do seem to hear.
Yeah, they're very salient, that sound.
Absolutely.
And so just touching on that, so I mean, whistle is the same as, it's just a sound. So when we say command, it could be a whistle, it could be whatever you want it to be. Essentially, it's just a sound that's consistent that your dog knows has a meaning. So instead of come, he's just using the whistle noise.
Exactly. So, and it's like we say in class, it doesn't matter what command you use so long as you're consistent with the command. So I typically use 4 short pips for come. I use 1 long blast for stop. If I want them to move left or right, it's 2 pips.
I'm hoping this isn't like deathly,
No, exactly. So sorry. That may be really coming in through there.
Yeah.
Anyway, and hopefully all your dogs are there sitting up going, what? And that is demonstrating how well it can actually work. But it doesn't matter. You can use whatever. I mean, you can pipe a tune, Waltzing Matilda on it, for come if you want.
Extra credit if you can nail that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so, and the other piece of training equipment that I often use, and I believe Courtney does as well, is a clicker. Now, a clicker will come to when we're talking about the markers in a bit more detail, but basically all it does is it makes a noise. So you hang it around your wrist, as Courtney is demonstrating, and it's a little device that basically when you push it, gives a little click, and it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Very, very useful for marking behaviours, and we'll talk about how you use that later on in the show. Another couple of things I wanted to touch on just very, very quickly at the end. We like to train our dogs into muzzles. The reason we like to train our dogs into muzzles is that it's just another tool that we can use given the circumstances. So I took my dogs to the beach yesterday. They are baiting for foxes around the beach at the moment. There's a sign up. Now, I didn't have them with me, but if I had, I would have liked to have put my dogs in the muzzles, because that would have stopped them being able to pick up any poison bait for their own safety. My dogs are working dogs. They can quite easily get a stick injury or anything like that out in the bush. Sometimes I may need to take them to the vet when they're in excruciating pain.
Yeah, and if they're comfortable in the muzzle, this is the point I was going to make, so much less stress for them.
Exactly. So if I can put if they're more than happy in their muzzle, the muzzle for them is nothing different to wearing a collar or anything like that. If I can put them in that, it just renders them safe. It makes the vet's job a lot easier. For dogs, that do have or you suspect may be aggressive towards other dogs or people, again, it's a responsible thing to do to train them into the muzzle. And you can train dogs, to really, really like, their muzzles. It's positive. The way we train it is entirely positive. We make sure that it's they get as excited when the muzzle comes out as they do when the lead comes out. Because it's all associated with positive stuff for them. Okay. Now, a lot of people will say to me, "Oh, I don't want to muzzle train my dog," and I ask them why, and they say, "Well, it's just perception. I don't want people to think I've got a bad dog." My view is, look, if you've got your dog muzzle trained, then it's never going to be a bad dog. It can't be, okay? It makes you a good owner.
It has nothing to do with
it's
your
as simple
dog
as that.
being
It's got
good or
nothing to
bad.
do with your dog. You can get muzzles out there that are bright pink, translucent, clear, all manner of colours and so on. You don't need a big black muzzle with teeth painted on it,
I've seen
and
those.
blood, kind of, and all that kind of thing. You can get muzzles that are very benign, almost invisible if you use some of the clear ones.
If I had mine today, I'd show you. But
Absolutely. it's a good thing to do. If you want any help muzzle training your dog, if you think that that's a good thing, for your dog to know, regardless of, our dogs, they're not aggressive at all, but muzzle trained. Just as a matter of principle, it's just one of the things they're used to, they're happy with. Then it's a tool that I've got in my toolbox that I can use if I need to. Okay. Now, the other thing I wanted to talk about briefly was the use of e-collars. We've had a couple of questions recently from trainees talking about, should they use e-collars, what are the benefits of using e-collars, and so on. Now, for those of you who don't know anything about e-collars, they're sometimes wrongly referred to as shock collars, and they basically allow you to provide some form of negative pressure, some form of stimulation to your dog on command, in order to enhance a behaviour.
It's like wireless communication.
Basically. Now, my personal view, Courtney may disagree, and that's fine, because it's a contentious point. But my personal view is that I never recommend the use of e-collars to people, simply because in most cases people don't really understand them. There's a lot of theory that goes behind the use of them that you really need to wrap your head around before you can use them effectively and humanely.
Otherwise you're probably actually making things worse for yourself.
Exactly. That is that's the most important thing. I've heard loads of issues where e-collars have been used for punishment. You have to provide positive punishment, an act of punishment to a dog for doing a behaviour. That's not going to the cause of the behaviour, it's not going to solve the behaviour, chances are it's going to make it worse. And there's lots of test cases we've heard of where dogs, have been subjected to that and have then had to have been put down, because they've just been rendered too unsafe through the use of too much punishment. Now, I don't like to use the e-collar for punishment. I will use it with my working dogs, generally when I'm trying to shape very, very complex behaviours in them. It's a tool that I can use to help them understand what it is I'm looking for. I use the e-collar at a setting where it's barely perceptible to the dog, and I never take it above that.
I can't feel my dog's settings.
Exactly. Dogs are sensitive, sometimes they can see it, they can feel it. You can put it on yourself, and honestly, it's nothing.
And if you come for a lesson, we will put it on you.
Yes, exactly. If you come to us for an e-collar training lesson, because that was the other point I was going to make, if anybody wants to use an e-collar, please do come to us so we can teach you how to do it properly. We will inflict it on you. And on ourselves.
Because you should feel what it is, know what you're doing.
You need to understand, how it works, what the sensation is. It's an alien, rather than it being a painful sensation for your dog, it's an alien sensation. And it's an alien sensation that, as you said, as Courtney said, that you can wirelessly control from a distance. So it's a useful tool, to have in the kit. Okay? It's as simple as that. But please, 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 if you don't understand it, do not use it. Please do not go out and buy one without us having trained you first, because there's different ones out there that have much different levels of quality in them, and you want, if you're going to use it, you need a really good one that's really, really good, gives you a lot of sensitivity on the levels.
And it's a safe stimulation.
Exactly. So don't go out and just buy some piece of crap. You need to talk to us, and we'll tell you, which ones, you need to be getting and so on. And we'll teach you in the correct usage of them. Okay? So look, it is a tool out there. It's a much kind of vilified tool. It's banned in certain places in certain states. It's banned in certain parts of the world. It's also widely used and very successfully in other parts of the world. And
specifically in military and police applications.
Absolutely. It does work if you use it right. Sadly, 90% of people use it wrong, and that's what gives it a bad name. It's that simple. When we're talking about the concept of negative pressure, I would argue that if your dog is wearing a flat plastic type collar and you are banging on the lead, that's going to hurt it more than an e-collar.
There's been studies done actually on that kind of stuff, I think. So.
Absolutely. So look, if anybody wants to talk to us about e-collars, we would really love to talk to you about them, because we really, we are not anti their use. Courtney uses them, I use them. We use them very, very tactically, to help build, certain behaviours. But we deeply understand the theory and the use behind them, and that's what that's what's important. So if there's a path you want to go down with your dog, and this is not, a lot of people come to us saying, oh, I'm going to use an e-collar because my dog is uncontrollable, it's too aggressive, it's too powerful, it's too... That is the last possible time you want to use one.
We don't teach things with the e-collar.
No, it does not. It is not used to teach. It is used to help them understand, and it is not used for punishment. That's the point. Okay. Any questions on that, please do message us, phone us, and we're happy to talk to you about it. We're happy to run a private session, training people in it. Okay, I think that's enough from me now. I'm going to hand over to Courtney now, who's going to answer the first question of the week, which came from Brooke. Thank you, Brooke. Talking about basically dog barking, and nuisance barking, and what you can do about it.
Yep.
Courtney.
Awesome. So, the thing with barking that's tough, guys, is before we do anything to try to solve the issue, is we need to figure out why your dog is barking.
Yep.
Contrary to popular belief, barking is not just a natural behaviour. Like, yes, our dogs bark and they communicate, but excessive barking is not natural. It's not just something that your dog enjoys doing. In fact, they probably are highly stressed when they're doing it. And we need to figure out, okay, is your dog just super vocal when it's playing and it's playing all day with your other dog in the yard and that's why you're getting complaints? Is your dog bored and he's finding things for himself to do, i.e. chasing the other dog on the other side of the fence, or barking at birds, or barking at people walking past? Dogs are really creative. They'll find lots of ways to entertain themselves. Is your dog barking because they're territorial? Are they alerting you to the fact that someone is, approaching your property? These are all questions that we kind of need to answer before we come up with an appropriate solution, because it's different for all of them. We find, often dogs are barking because they're bored. Their people aren't home. They're just sitting around the house all day with not much to do until everyone gets home again. And that's honestly one of the easiest fixes, luckily. It's one of the most common ones, but it's just, including a lot more enrichment in their day. Stop feeding them from a bowl, do some scatter feeding, use some Kongs, sort of the soda pup toys. The sky's the limit. You can cut a Coke bottle, a hole out of that, and use that to feed it to them. But I guess my biggest recommendation, I think, for a lot of people that have barking issues is to try enriching your dog's day more first and see if that helps. Would you say that's...
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because beyond that, of course, there's other reasons why dogs bark, and that might be something that you need more help from James and I with, because it's often a case-by-case solution. But definitely, introducing more of that stuff, giving them a Kong with a little bit of peanut butter in it when you walk out the door, so you leaving becomes a good thing. There's a whole bunch of things that we can try, I think, first.
Absolutely.
But it's hard for me to stand up here and give everyone a solution for everything, because it is so individual per dog.
Yeah, I think that's right. And so what we're getting at here is really, we need to identify the underlying cause. In most cases, it will be partly linked to boredom.
Yes.
And that's what Courtney's saying, that if we go to the enrichment, see if that improves the situation. If it doesn't, then it's relating to something else, some form of fear, nervousness, excitement,
anxiety,
some form of
whatever.
over-arousal in your dog.
Yes.
That we need to address.
That's exactly it. It's over-arousal. Whether it's positive or negative,
Yeah.
it's over-arousal, generally.
And so that's what we need to work out. We need to work out what that arousal is. If it's just that they're barking because they're bored and it's something to do, that's kind of the easiest one to address first or knock off the list first. So it's always worth looking at that first. I hope that helps, Brooke.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one we're going to talk to is the question of how to use the long line, and particularly down at the beach. And this question was posed by Kira with Tilly, who Jimmy's little mates. They are graduates of our foundation program, and we're really looking forward to seeing them again soon. So it'd be great to see you again, Kira and Tilly. But long line training, Courtney?
Awesome. So long line handling. I'll kind of show you with my lead, just so I don't end up having the whole huge thing, just because I'm on camera. So I'm assuming the issue that most people have is it getting tangled all over the place, and not actually being able to effectively kind of reel your dog in if it gets to the point where you've called them and they're not listening, because it's wrapped around their feet, or there's a couple extra meters of it laying on the ground, whatever it is. So when I'm handling the long line, it's attached to Buddy here. I like to do an underhand and then an overhand. The idea being, I can pull that rope through, feed it through, keep it not tight, but there's no slack in it. It's not hanging on the ground. So the idea is you're keeping it off the ground the whole time. I can feed that out really nice and easily. If he wants to go out, I can bring him in. And to me, that's what works best. I don't actually worry about this too much. I kind of tend to drop that, especially when I have a long line on the beach, and I just focus on my hands here, making sure that the line between me and the dog is clear. Because by keeping it off the ground, that's pretty much the only way you're going to keep it from getting under their legs. And that's the biggest issue, especially with long lines. You don't want them running to the end of it and then catching it under their arm, and I've seen dogs cut themselves, you get joint injuries, all that kind of stuff. Another thing I'd like to mention is if your dog is a dog that is likely to just neck it and hit the end of the long line, think about their neck. Do not have them on a halty. Like, do not ever attach a dog to a halty and a long line if they're going to hit the end of it and run, because that's a recipe for real bad neck issues. Flat collars are a good option. And then for dogs who are, like I said, who are really going to hit it, I would prefer, that's a good time to use a harness, in my opinion. When you're on the beach and you're giving that freedom and you're using that long line, just so that they can't hurt themselves.
Thank you, Courtney. And I'd also say to that as well, this is
I don't know if you have another way of you doing it.
This is also a great opportunity to be training your dog to not, run into the end of that long line.
Yes, before they get to the end.
So your timing, there's a lot of work for you in this. You are, as Courtney was doing, managing the line yourself. Or quite often when I'm working, because I'm not working in open areas so much, there's a lot of branches, twigs, bushes and so on, I will tend to coil it all the time. The principle remains the same, that you're always working with a reasonably taut line.
You're just keeping off the ground.
Because otherwise it does get tangled in things and everything else. But you also want to be training your dog, use a with me command or something like that, or this way, as Courtney uses. But basically you're watching your dog, you're kind of looking to see when they're about to hit the end of that line, and then you're calling them back to you a little bit.
With a big reward waiting.
Big reward. So, you're teaching them that they don't go banging in straight into the end of that line. So.
And as always with feeding position, if we're feeding them a treat every time they get into us, they want to hang around us.
Exactly. So you're teaching them that they can be free, they can walk around, they can do all that sort of stuff, but you actually want them in proximity to you. They can meander around, they can sniff this, they can have a little bit of a run, but you want them in a general kind of proximity area. Where you can assert control over them. And obviously the point to that is, once we've got them so their recall is bomb-proof, their proximity kind of ratio is pretty good as well.
They understand.
Then you can start maybe not having to use the line at all.
Or even, what I did yesterday is I took Cyrus to the beach, and him being a bulldog, sometimes he doesn't hear me when he's really fixated on those waves. So he had a long line on, but I wasn't actually using it. It was just there for if I needed to go and reinforce my recall, I can go up and grab the end of that and pull it in. I actually didn't even need to use it once, but what's the harm in having it there? And I think that's what a lot of people try to jump off it so quickly, but why?
Yes, absolutely. Now, as I said, a lot of, most long lines have a clip on the end of them, so, and if you're using them at the beach, or anywhere they're going to get dirty, salty and so on, please do rinse them out with fresh water, a little bit of WD-40 if you need to, anything like that. Just actively manage that clip because, your dog's safety relies on it, frankly. Okay. Any more questions on that, please do just put them in the comments, put them up on the page, or DM us, and we'll do our best to answer.
Perfect.
Okay. Right, the next one we're going to talk about now is the masterclass section, which is on the use of markers and using the clicker. Now, if you're in our classes, you'll understand the point of a marker is basically a word, a sound, an action that tells your dog when they're doing the right thing. So when we're doing basic behaviours and doing treat rewards, we can call them to us, come, they sit up in front of us. As soon as they are sitting in front of us, giving us really nice eye contact, we can say yes and give them the treat.
And mark that exact moment that they did it right.
Exactly. That's the point of markers. In that instance, we're using a verbal command, the yes, and we're using the treat, bang, as marking the behaviour. As you get into more and more complex behaviours, it's quite hard to actually mark that behaviour using a verbal or physical treat cue. So what you need to use is a bridging marker.
Yes.
What I like to use is the clicker.
For the bridge,
For the bridge. Because basically what you're saying to the dog there is, by loading the clicker, and when we talk about loading the clicker, what you're doing, and Courtney will demonstrate in a minute, is you're basically getting the dog to do a behaviour, click, treat, click, treat, click, treat. They start associating, they know that what follows that click is the reward. So when you're really fine-tuning their behaviour and using the clicker training, you can be watching them. When they do the exact, and you can also do it from distance, you can actually mark the exact moment they've done the correct behaviour with the click.
Yep.
Then
and
they understand.
whether you find the click or the verbal is probably person.
Yeah, exactly. But using the click, it's nice and sharp, it kind of cuts through. Yeah, you can really mark that behaviour. Click. They go, bang, right, that was what I was meant to do. Because that, the direct associations to the treat.
Exactly.
So it gives you a lot more kind of power and control, to be more precise.
Clarity, clarity. Really.
Clarity and precision, basically. Okay.
Perfect.
So Courtney will now demonstrate.
Awesome. So
Buds.
just loading the clicker. It's as simple as we're just going to be sitting here. I'm going to have some treats. I'm going to click. I'll do a little movement in case you guys can't actually see. And then he's going to get a treat. So this is something you would do. I would recommend doing this a couple times a day. Get out 10 treats. Do it a few times a day for a week, and then you can confidently say, like your dog is really loaded on it. And this is also, I call like a clicker or any marker is like a battery. So you can drain it by using it out when you're out in public and you don't have treats and you use it, and they still get that little hit of dopamine and they know that they've done right and you've communicated with your dog. But we're slowly draining away the value of that word. So when you go home and you do your training session, that's when you're going to still use your clicker, but you're going to use treats as well to make sure you're charging it back up and it continues to have that meaning to your dog. So I'll just get into it anyway, but it's just going to be as simple as click, treat. And you want a quick succession so that they're understanding that the click means the food. So you would have seen there, I think you can just see the top of his head. When I clicked, he went from staring at James and he twitched right over because he knows what this means. That's what you're kind of looking for when you're training, to see that your dog, like, they're not paying attention, you click and they just snap, like they know what it means. And wait, don't make it too much of a pattern. Wait 3 seconds in between clicks and then wait 10 seconds. And then you can do one that's nice and quick. But the idea is we want them to also understand what the absence of the clicker means, right? So they're only getting food when they hear this noise. Then it's going to get to the point where I can do some stuff with him. So, buddy, come. So once your dog knows the clicker, this is how you would use it. Buddy, come. So instead of saying yes, I'm clicking. I personally use the clicker as a release marker. But, as James was saying, you can condition it to mean whatever you would like. So you could condition it to replace it when I use good as my bridge. So that's what James would be using this click for. And then at the end, he would be releasing with a yes. Or whatever it is his word is. Drop. So you can see the concept of, it's just literally me replacing yes with this little click and then delivering him his reward. Buddy, heel.
Great, thanks.
Anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, that's great. And I think that's really, really good, because as we kind of talk about in class, there's different ways. Everybody has their own ways, their own commands of doing things. The most important thing is to be as consistent, as you can be. Use your command. So, for example, if Courtney uses a yes or a click as the release, I might use free dog.
Yep, exactly.
As the release. Because to me, that it just makes more sense in my head.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and it just has to make sense to you. Your dog will put its own meaning to it.
I'm not going to get confused, because I could easily say yes at the wrong time, substitute it for good, substitute it for something else.
Yes, exactly.
Whereas free dog means that they are released from the behaviour. So quite often, if I'm trying to build a complex behaviour, I have to build it up in phases. So then you are using a lot of bridges.
Yes.
Because you're trying to build that behaviour. It's very, very easy to say the wrong thing. And if you've got the word yes as a release, and you don't want them released, because you want to layer up another behaviour, you can't say it. It makes life tricky. But look, it doesn't matter what you use.
Yeah, it's all personal preference.
It's all personal preference.
Just make sure it works for you.
Exactly right. And be consistent. Okay, so before we finish up, the last thing is Buddy's trick of the week. This week, Buddy, our friend Buddy, Buddy, as I said, the life and times of Buddy on Instagram. Yeah, please follow Buddy. He's got his own cult following. Thank you, mate. He's now going to demonstrate with Courtney the rollover.
Yeah, awesome. So like James was saying last week when we taught the drop, this is a great natural progression. I do recommend waiting until your dog has a solid drop until you add this in, just so you don't start getting confused behaviors and you ask for a drop and they roll or vice versa. But once they do have that drop, it's nice and easy. The key here is what I find a lot of people do is they put their dog into that drop and then they use that lure in front of their face, but they try to just do a circle, like right in front of their face. And all you're gonna get is your dog doing these ones, following it with their nose, but not actually moving their body. So what we're gonna do is, and I'll show you and you'll see it, but it just makes it easier if I kind of explain this. We're gonna kind of roll them back over the shoulder. So the treat's gonna go over their shoulder, their head's gonna follow over their shoulder, and they flip over. And that's the way that I found works for me. So I'll show you guys now. That's make sure you can see us. Yes, cool, awesome. So, Buddy drop.
Something there.
Good, so you can see he drops on cue. He knows what that means. I'm gonna reward him for that because it's its own command. And then I'm gonna ask him to roll and I'm gonna use this lure in my hand over his shoulder. Roll. Yes. Marked with a yes, he gets his reward. So I'll do it again and I'll do it the other way, but you'll see I'm dragging it back over his shoulder and around. That's what's gonna get you that movement. Roll. Yes. Good boy. Should I do another one?
Yeah, why not?
Why not, bud? All right.
One last one, just because we like to fill Buddy with treats.
Well, we'll see if I can. I've been working on this one with him, so I'll see if I can. Buddy, drop, roll. Yeah, good boy. Awesome. So
yeah, and as
that's
you
the
saw,
progression.
and as you saw in the last one there, then it's less of a direct line being drawn over his shoulder. It's more a flick of the wrist. Yeah,
And the command.
Yeah, he's and the command, and he's learned those things. That's us for this week.
Yeah.
We've gone a bit over time. We've been here for 40
got on
minutes.
a tangent.
That's probably me talking a lot about muzzles and e-collars. But look, I hope that's been really, really helpful for everybody. Yeah, please do keep an eye on the Facebook page and so on. We will let everybody know when we've got groups able to start again. If you are not in one of our current groups currently and you'd like to be in the next round whenever that starts, you can actually book onto them now, secure a spot. Spots are limited, so please do book in as soon as possible, to get that place, because I think we've only got, a few left.
Awesome.
As soon as we're able to start again, we will. The classes are held here at Butterham Mountain State School Oval on a Sunday morning and a Wednesday evening. Any questions during the week, please do, send us put a comment on the Facebook page, send us a DM, and we'll try and cover them off in next week's show. But other than that, look, thank you very much for your attention.
Very much.
Thank you, Courtney, for the demonstrations.
Thanks for having me, James.
Yep, you're welcome. Thank you to Buddy for being a superstar, as ever. Thank you to Cyrus, who's over there.
Being quiet.
Being very quiet, which is amazing. Have a great week, everybody. Any questions on anything, particularly those tricky things like e-collar training, please do. If that's something you intend to do, please do come and talk to us first. Let us show you how to do that properly.
We want to help.
Okay. We don't have an axe to grind here. It's a tool. Most people don't like it on principle. Some people do. If you want to use it, that's your personal preference. Let us show you how to do it properly. I'll leave it there.
Awesome. Yes, awesome.
Great.
Thanks,
Thanks
guys.
everyone. Take care. Cheers.